Liveship Traders is a top 5 series. I have more than one mutual on my book talk who read or dies Robin Hobb, who treats Robin Hobb like a goddess. Basically, the way I treat the author of One Piece, Ichiro Oda. A few of these mutuals haven't even finished Realm of the Elderlings, and yet they still swear by Robin Hobb, which is crazy, or so I thought at the time. At first, I was like, okay, be for real. Is she really up there with my goats? Brandon Sanderson, Tamsin Muir, Ichiro Oda, Otto. That last one's not even a writer. After reading the Farseer trilogy, my answer was she's up high, but not up there with my goats. But now, after reading the Liveship Traders, Robin Hobb glaze is valid. This woman can write. Holy shit. Before we get into it, let me read you a synopsis from the back of the Ship of Magic, which is book 1 in the Liveship Traders series. So for those of you who are here for the spoiler-free part, you can get an idea of what it's about. I've tried coming up with my own, but honestly, the authors know how to condense these books the best. Bingtown is a hub of exotic trade and home to a merchant nobility famed for its life ships, rare vessels carved from wizard wood, which ripens magically into awareness. The fortunes of one of Bingtown's oldest families rest on the newly awakened live ship Vivacia. For Althea Vestrit, the ship is her rightful legacy unjustly denied her, a legacy she will risk anything to reclaim. For Althea's young nephew Wintrow, wrenched from his religious studies and forced to serve aboard the ship, Vivacia is a life sentence. But the fate of the Vestrit family and the ship may ultimately lie in the hands of an outsider. The ruthless pirate Kennit seeks a way to seize power over all the denizens of the Pirate Isles, and the first step of his plan requires him to capture his own live ship and bend it to his will. Now I'm going to do something a little bit different in this video, where the first part will be a spoiler-free review, and then after that we will do some spoiler stuff, mostly thoughts/reactions on characters, some events. I'll put a timestamp of when we get into spoiler stuff right here, but you can also check it via the chapters down below. Let's get into this. Starting off with prose. It's not something I normally talk about, but Robin Hobb has maybe mentioned prose twice on this channel, which to me is just like incredibly impressive. I promise you I am not a prose noticer, but Robin's is just so beautiful and so immersive, and it really helps you feel like you're there in this world. It's poetic. It flows incredibly. It's comforting to read. It's almost cozy, even though, in my humble opinion, Robin Hobb is a grim, dark author. There is like horrible shit going on in these books, yet somehow through her prose, Robin gives off these vibes like you should be sitting next to a fire during a cold winter day. You have your window open, just the blinds, not the actual window open, and it's snowing outside. You have a hearth in front of you, and you're laid up, cuddled under a blanket. You have some mashed potatoes next to you somewhere, I don't know, that you reach to occasionally, and then a hot chocolate with you. I know you're thinking hot chocolate and mashed potatoes. I'm telling you guys, warm mashed potatoes are so good. That's the type of vibe I get when I read, I think, Robin Hobb in general, but especially this book as well, even though our characters are going through crazy amounts of shit. Also, for those of you who are listening to the audiobook, I personally listened and read. I immersion read. The narrator does a fantastic job, in my opinion. Her accent definitely helps deliver a lot of the pirate shit. I was immersed so well, I kept forgetting that Robin Hobb is American. Now, when it comes to characters, I think that the Liveship Traders series is Robin Hobb's best character work so far. Granted, I've only read 2 series by her, but I guess out of the 2, it was top tier. And I think that character work wise, I think this is probably in my top 3, maybe my top 1. This might be the best character work I've ever read, especially when it comes to just not telling you everything about the characters. I feel like Brandon Sanderson might do that a lot. I still think he's an amazing character guy, but Robin Hobb makes you do the legwork, right? And if you're paying attention, you can really unfold the layers of these characters as you go along. Top 1, I'm gonna say it, top 1 best character work I've ever read. I was super attached to our entire cast from the very beginning, and I think at least a decent part of that is due to the suffering that the cast experiences almost like immediately as soon as the book begins. So you're really there with them and you really feel for them, and I think that when you're attached to characters that fast, it gives the author a lot of room to significantly increase your attachment to these characters instead of spending the time of, especially through book 1, to create that attachment in the first place. Does that kind of make sense? It's already there in the beginning, more or less. Each and every single character will break your heart in one way or another. They're so deeply complex, and when you read the book, and it's mostly through how different characters see each other, characters can be so different depending on who is involved with who. Like character A might see character B a certain way, but character C has a totally different interpretation of who character B is, and it really makes you question who is right and who is wrong, or if they're both right. If these two realities of one person can exist simultaneously, it really adds a lot of depth to each person, seeing them from vastly different angles. But when she's not doing that to show you the complexities and the layers of these characters, you're often finding yourself doing that just by looking into how this person acts. You're not really told too much about them. You're not told as much as like Brandon Sanderson would tell you about this character as you're reading them, but there's a lot that's implied and a lot that you can deduce or infer from the character's actions. And I think that's my favorite way to learn about characters. These characters are also very ever-changing / ever-evolving. Characters are so different from book 1 to the end of book 3. Their developments are the results of their situations, and each progression feels so real and so understandable. It's kind of crazy because when you're going through it, it doesn't feel like it's that big of a change. Each change is so small and so minute in the moment, but then it accumulates enough for each character over the course of the entire series that when you look back, you're like, holy shit, this is a completely different person. And that's crazy because I've read books where the character just does a complete 180 and bam, they're a new person. That's not really what Robin Hobb does here, and that's not, I think, how it should be done. And I really like the way she does it. Very slowly, in small increments over time throughout the entire series. Then you look back, what the? Are you the same person? And then finally, I want to talk about the live ships. They are amazing, and they are characters are just so refreshing. They're so full of life. Such a unique paradigms on the world. They are just some of the greatest things I've ever seen. They are not written like human beings, and I freaking love it. And unlocking the mystery of the live ships gives insane insights into not only the world, but each live ship's personality. Now the plot, it's amazing. I love it. Every character has their own plot line, and it eventually almost all converges into one, and I love it when that happens. The plot was definitely nowhere near as weak as the Farseer trilogy. A lot more things happen in this section of the world. Maybe, I don't know. The mystery of the live ships and their origins unfolds a whole new plotline that is vital to the importance of literally everything in this universe. Like with Farseer, the plot is used to show off more about our cast of characters, even the live ships. Not to say that there isn't plot for plot's sake. There is that. I think that you can't have a book that doesn't do that to a certain extent. But when you're reading this, you can really tell that Robin's like, okay, I want this to happen to a character. How can I work the plot in to make the character do this, or make the character have this moment, or make the character change this way for this reason? And then when they do change, I'll use it for X, Y, and Z and blah, 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 blah. I love it when you reverse work. You know what I mean? Almost every single plot line will have you on the edge of your seat when you're following all these characters and you're seeing how everything leads to this one thing. Fantastic. God tier stuff. All right, now let's get into some spoiler stuff. First, I'm going to talk about the characters real quick. I won't go like too deep into it. Just a few thoughts about each one. First off, we got Malta, my second favorite character throughout this trilogy. Her character development was actually insane. It's such a drastic change, but like I said, it didn't feel rushed. It was very small and incremental. And then I look back, I'm like, who is this? She grew basically from a spoiled brat who has this like delusion of who her father is to a strong, smart, and independent woman who takes charge of her situations. A lot of the growing up she had to do was almost forced on her as a result of her own decisions. And I really like that. It was a result of her own naivety. How the freak do you say that word? It wasn't like the world forced her to do it. It was her not listening and her causing trouble. And now she put herself in trouble. So she has to learn how to deal with it and grow up and mature in order to get through it. I think it was also interesting of Hobb to let the story end with Malta still having a little bit of a fantasy about Kyle and not really completely destroying it. Like, I think the book ended with Malta kind of having an idea that her dad is a piece of shit. But like, unless somebody tells her, she doesn't know the full story. So it's kind of like a mercy, you know? And I know Althea did that. She didn't tell her. Wintrow hasn't told her, I think. And you know, it was a mercy. You know, Malta had so much taken away from her, and they really didn't want to take away this nice, beautiful fantasy of who her father is. I don't know, because Kyle was such a piece of shit, and Malta like hating him would have felt so good for me, but I guess there's no reason to. He's dead, you know what I mean? He can't suffer anymore. Which brings me to Kyle. Truly a vile person. Bravo. Amazingly written character. Wasn't even the main antagonist of this series, but you actually ended up hating him more than Kennit. He just felt so real, and that's why he was so terrifying. I genuinely think he believed in his justifications. Kind of. I think he deluded himself into believing his justifications. Like, he definitely wanted glory and was power hungry. If that's really all of what it was, I think at the end of the day was power over people. But I do think that he somehow still believed it at the same time, that he was doing it for the family, he was doing to help everyone. I think these two realities are existing in once. I also found it really interesting how he, being the manipulator he is, was still very susceptible to manipulation, mostly by Torg. I just can't believe Kyle the manipulator let a dumbass like Torg manipulate him into letting Wintrow get that slave mark. It's crazy. And I think it's really funny, and there's something else there to dissect. Getting the two different sides of him with Wintrow and Keffria was definitely interesting. Back on what I talked about earlier, giving him that extra layer, I think. Watching the super bad side pop out with him every once in a while when dealing with Keffria and Ronica showed really how those two sides of him are both the same person, and it makes it really interesting in my opinion. Fantastic character. I freaking hated his guts. And Wintrow, oh Wintrow, his character evolution was great. Overall, his kindness never left at the end of the day, and I really do appreciate that. Wintrow went from naive to low-key, tough as nails, and the Pirate King's consort. I think that's absolutely crazy. And well, he's no longer naive. I wouldn't say he was stupid. He definitely had a lot of philosophical training when he was training to be a priest, and definitely that also made him wise beyond his years while still being naive in certain areas. You know, you can't be super wise or knowledgeable about everything in life, right? His character development, though, it was just so good. He just changed so much, but he still feels like himself. Whereas I feel like for Malta, she felt like such a different person at the end. But Wintrow, it was more like he had himself established who he is, what he believes, and then he just like trimmed or carved different parts of himself out, but still eventually the mold is the same, the internal is the same, and I really like that. He's more like he just refined himself over the course of the series, but I think the core of who he is the same, and I really do like that. I think that was fantastic. Definitely a top tier character in just the reading world in general. I hate that he got super manipulated by Kennit, but like also he didn't, but he did. You know what I mean? Both. Which brings me to Kennit. Oh, brother, dude. He was an amazing character. He was written so well, but I never liked him. I would say I never liked him. At no point did I ever think, maybe this dude isn't so bad. Nah, dude. This dude's a horrible person with amazing luck. Poor freaking Edda, dude. And Althea, obviously. Kennit gave Edda so much, but somehow Edda deserved so much more than what Kennit gave her. Materially, emotionally, you freaking name it. His thoughts honestly revolted me almost as much as Kyle, and his actions might actually be worse than Kyle. They are worse than Kyle. Like, bro, you ain't gotta do that, dog. I get that it was to demonstrate the cycle of victimization. You know, victim becomes the victimizer, but you know, like once he did that, all hope I had for him being like an anti-hero went out the window. You know what I mean? I don't even think that's something Kyle would have done. I got a comment on my Threads post that was really interesting. It says something along the lines of Kyle was a monster, Kennit is a tragedy, and I kind of want to refine that and say Kyle was a monster, Kennit is a tragedy turned monster. Kennit has never not been monstrous, you know, in his adult life. It was just almost always internal. I hated him from the start and hated him at the end. One of the best written scumbags of all time. On for Edda. Oh, Edda, you deserved so much better. You were my favorite character. You were so beautiful. You're so full of love, hate, and wits. I feel so bad for her. Edda's relationship with Kennit is a bigger reason why I hate him than him like raping Althea. Him doing that to Althea was more just like, all right, I've had it. Final straw. That's it. I'm done with you, dog. Edda gave him the chance to be better, but he threw the chance and her away. She is like fierce, loyal, cunning. She's best girl, and it hurts so much that she was not appreciated by that scumbag. She, in my opinion, is like the epitome of strength. Moving on to Althea, her storyline wasn't really something I cared about too much, unfortunately, because, you know, from the description, it really makes her seem like she's the main character, but I was way more invested in Keffria, Ronica, Malta, Wintrow, Paragon, Amber. I don't know, just her, Brashen, and I think the Serpents. I didn't have as much fun reading them. I still did, but just like they weren't top tier for me. I feel like her character arc wasn't like that big. She went from naive to really just not naive, but I'm glad she's finally set up to heal from the recent and past traumas, sexual assault. I'm glad she's with Brashen, but I feel like their romance is definitely very awkward. I feel incredibly bad for her having to give up the Vivacia. Like, so bad for her about that. And, you know, for her being, you know, I will say old Althea probably wouldn't have given up the Vivacia if she knew she'd been allowed to stay. So I do think that's some really good growth on her part. For Brashen, not really too much to say about him. I think he was a solid constant throughout the series that a lot of our characters needed, mostly Althea and Paragon, mostly Althea and Paragon. Brashen is just that wise, older brother, reliable character, I think, is somebody you can always lean back on. And I feel bad for him because he doesn't really have somebody he can lean on himself. It's just everybody doing that to him. I guess he has that now with Althea. But yeah, I mean, I liked him. He's a good dude. Even with this drug problem, he settled that shit out when he needed to. My man said, I need to get this done. I'm gonna get it done. I respect that. Moving on to Keffria, I'm really proud of the way she's grown. She's taken charge and is willing to stand up for herself. If Kyle made it back, I'm sure he'd hate to see who she became, and that brings me a lot of joy, because frick that guy. I like how she's also begun to see her children as more than just children and is letting them fight their own fights. She's just significantly stronger now, and I love that for her. Not too much to say about her. Now for Ronica, I don't really have as much to say about her either, even though she's my second favorite character, I think, or third favorite character. She made some mistakes in the beginning, but she realized them pretty quickly, and she was like, there's nothing I can do about it now. The boat's already gone. And so she just squared up and went to deal with the shit she needs to deal with now. I think she's a total badass. She's my wife. She's got an amazing head on her shoulders, and I really want to see her again. She definitely, I think, was a constant. Not to the extent that Brashen is, but still a constant for a lot of our characters to fall back on, even though she herself was going through so much shit and she had to lean on Devad a decent amount of times, you know? I don't know. You really can't blame her for that. You know what I mean? She was fantastic. One of the strongest characters in this book. She's a total freaking beast. And I probably won't see her again, but I really hope I do. Moving on to Vivacia and Paragon, I think that the live ships are just so cool. I like their personality changes as they learn the memories or regain some of the memories back from before they died and they were a dragon, and how that changed their characters. Although I do really like the character growth of both of them without the memory changes. I do feel like they did evolve Vivacia from no longer being timid and making her own decisions. Even though she might have been kind of manipulated by Kennit, she became way more independent and way more wise, I guess, and definitely with the help of Wintrow. I love Vivacia and Wintrow's relationship. I wish I got to see more of Vivacia and Althea's friendship. I don't know, maybe probably not gonna happen. As for Paragon, he deserves so much better. So does Vivacia. I felt so bad for her when she was a slaver. Paragon, oh my god, I'm glad he's really happy now. That makes me feel so good. The way he changed as a human being when he was being put on fire and what Kennit did to him. Not a human being, but you know what I mean. It was just so beautiful. One of my favorite moments when he took charge of himself. Beautiful. I love Paragon so much. And then Amber. Crazy. As for the plot, I'm super glad we have more dragons now. That makes me so happy. And I can't wait to see if we see Tintaglia again, or if we see any of these new dragons in Tawny Man. I feel like I'm probably going to see them in the Rainwild Chronicles. I'm curious of when that'll be in the timeline. And I'm excited to see this new race of Elderlings with Malta and Rain. That's going to be so freaking epic. They're probably going to be king and queen of the freaking Elderlings, right? Am I crazy? That's going to happen, right? I'm definitely seeing Malta again, for sure. And I think it's going to be so freaking epic. A little short thing about the plot. Amazing books, God tier, 5 out of 5 stars, top 5 series of all time. I don't see it being dethroned for a fat minute, and I will never forget my experience reading these for the first time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like, smash subscribe, hit subscribe, smash that like, is what I meant to say. Make sure you check out my wishlist, my sponsor, follow my socials in the description, and yeah, we'll see you next time.